On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
That's the whole thing with staying in your territory is you have the ability to overcome obstacles, which in the construction business, that's the normal flow of business. But when you step outside of where you know you shouldn't be, the wheels just seem to fall off and it never works out.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz, Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
All right, everybody. I'm Chaz, Wolfe, Gathering the Kings. I've got Greg Caldwell on the King stage today. Brother, great to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate the chance to visit with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We were just talking off air a little bit. You're in the mobile unit today. I love the mobile unit podcast. These are always get really juicy because you're in the midst of it all. So I love the flow. Greg, tell us what kind of business you have, man.
So I own a couple of businesses. I own a construction business. We primarily focus on steel buildings. We kind of venture a little deeper into some of them I'm not sure if it's very popular in your area yet, but barn dominiums are kind of an up and coming, in essence, building a house inside of a steel building. Yeah. And as we have customers that want those, we go deeper into that. But primarily, we don't do home construction without the steel building component to it. That's kind of our to the area.
So soup to nuts, you're building the whole entire home, but you're starting with the steel structure.
Yes. And in fact, we go as far as doing the dirt work. We do the foundation, we pour the concrete, we build the building, and then we handle everything until we hand them the keys. So
yeah, love it. And are you providing the service in more than just one area, or are you concentrated in your local market?
Mostly here in the East Texas area. We try to stay within about 50 miles of home. Just the way it works out, that's the most effective for everybody.
It'd be tough to bring an excavator much further.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it makes perfect sense for Texas because you guys have no basements, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
You know, the funny part about the barn dominium is that in 2015, I bought a property here in Kansas City from a friend of mine. He was moving out of the city and it was on 5 acres. I'd never been to his house, but I'd heard about this, farm as what, 5 acres is a farm here in the city, but we go over there and it's a barn dominium. And so I bought this place from him in 2015 and we've since then, rented it out, and actually I've got some family living there and stuff, but they're super unique. I absolutely love the style. And I think that what you're doing is going to be around for a very, very long time. So that's incredible.
It is very popular, gaining in popularity all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, okay. So before we jump into the details, I want to know at this level, you've got a unique story and a history. But again, before we get into the details, I want to know what moves you at this point. This isn't your first rodeo. This isn't the first thing that you put your hand to. Why are you pressing into this thing now at this level? What moves you?
Family. I've got 4 kids. The oldest is a CPA accountant. She's married off the payroll, if you will. She's on somebody else's payroll.
That's right.
The next daughter just graduated with her bachelor's in marketing, so she's finding her place in the world. And then I've got a son that's just out of high school, and then a son that's in high school. And they're interested in the business in different aspects, if you will. And so the hope is to grow the business to be able to encompass all of them and their various strengths and et cetera, to grow the business and have a legacy, if you will, that they're involved with.
I love that. I love the idea of each of them having their own little space. I think that's super unique because each are going to be different. I also have 4 kids, but they're much younger. And so I'm going to be watching you and how you do this because you're so right. They got their own personality. They got their own skill sets, their own talents, their own interests. And so, I offline, I'm going to have to just, text you and bug you to death on how that's going to roll out for you because I totally have the same vision, having these different unique skill sets that my children are already developing even, before 10 and going, okay, I see this and I see that and, puppeteering the whole thing,
Sure. Sure. And
being the
it's
patriarch.
finding each one of them. Yeah, it's finding each one of them's niche, if you will, and then figuring out how to plug them in. Like I said, from accountant to marketing to my older son is very hands-on as far as being day-to-day operations of things and how things work. And then my youngest, to put it quite honestly, he could sell snow to an Eskimo. I mean,
That's right.
he is a sales guy, and so that will probably be his niche when it comes a long time, because he just has that natural talent. So
yeah, I love it. I love how too it fits right in with typical firstborn, lastborn kind of formation. Usually that lastborn's a fantastic salesperson. They're a little crazy, but most salespeople are.
Sure.
Is there another architect or another facilitator like you in the bunch who kind of has a little bit of skill set everywhere that will run the whole thing, you think?
You know, it's hard to tell. They're all still just kind of finding their way. So
yeah.
We'll see how it develops.
There you go. Well, I love that. I love the legacy piece too. Was that something that has been inside you for a long time? Obviously, you've had the kids for a long time, or has that been something that's kind of developed as they've gotten older? Tell me about how this why came about.
Well, it was always kind of a thought. I grew up. My grandparents were farmers. They farmed, and so the typical dream of that way of life is to hand it off down to generations and et cetera. And unfortunately that didn't work out. But then the thought was, okay, how do we develop something that would be a similar in the handed off type aspect of generation after generation to be involved and have that. And so it's been a desire to find that. And so this has kind of worked into that model. So
yeah. 100%. I know that to be true. And you're right. It's legacy, whether it's farm ground, whether it's a business, whatever. It's the idea that you can build something that your children can stand on your shoulders, right?
Yes,
do something
absolutely.
even bigger.
Absolutely.
That's cool, man. Okay. So let's go back, right? So tell me about your journey. Tell me about how you got started, maybe even before business, because I know that you have quite a bit of history before that. Give us a little bit of your history.
Well, I'll tell you. So way back, my parents owned my dad and my uncle owned a tractor dealership. Okay. And in the early 80s, and the oil bust took place in West Texas in the mid 80s and took us out. Wow. And so I was young at that time and didn't know any different, but all of a sudden we were doing odd jobs anywhere and everywhere. But it taught me how to do a lot of the things that I use today. We were repairing roofs. We were building fence. We were doing construction projects. And
wherever you could.
It really wasn't. Yeah. And the thing about it was I didn't know any different. My dad never spent any money before we lost the business. It was not like there was a drastic reduction in funds that I was getting. It was just something else we were doing. And I didn't realize that. I guess maybe I did a little bit, but that I was helping pay the way, if you will. But it taught me a lot of skills that apply now to what I do now as a contractor in the building industry. So that's kind of where we started off, and it just progressed from there. I went to college, got the typical 4-year degree. I went to work for a steel company and worked for them for about 18 years. And I was teaching contractors how to put up steel buildings and how to make things work and how to put it together. And after I'd been there for about 18 years, it was like, I've done this for long enough for somebody else. And I knew the owner of the company that I worked for. I grew up around him. Sure. And so I'd known him forever, and I made him very good money. I mean, that's what an employee is supposed to do is benefit the employer. And the realization was there is, hey, I can do this for myself. And so at that point, I left that company, the old P blanket, if you will, and changed up careers a little bit, but it enabled me to start my construction business on the side. And then I built it up over the last, 7 years or so into what it is now. So.
Yeah, I love the energy there of, 18 years. It's not like you tried out something for 6 months, got antsy and said, forget this, I'm gonna go do it myself. Sure. And not that would be a bad story either, but I think that, man, you were plenty faithful.
Sure.
And so was the entrepreneurial bug biting you that whole time and you were just kind of fighting it off, or what did it all of a sudden get you? Like, tell me about.
It's interesting you say that, Chaz. So my wife, her family, she grew up her father was an electrician for the the local power company. He worked for the power company. worked for that job for 40 years. I mean, he was Mr. Steady, and the thought of venturing out self-employed to my wife was beyond frightening. She was not used to that type of thing. So I always had that in my mind, in the back of my mind, but just trying to find out exactly how to make that happen to relieve some of her stress. Sure. And it worked into the best way. Cause as I said, I changed jobs and it allowed me to start this on the side to build it up. So she had a whole lot less apprehension of leaving the security, if you will, of a 9 to 5, or, you know, well, 9 to 5. Yeah. Who works that? But an eight to whenever job to go self-employed. And so that was kind of progress that we made. And in that journey, while I was working for the other company, I went back and got an MBA. And of all things, it was just something that's like, you know, I want to see how this works out. And so I can apply those things now. Yeah. And even with the business I was running before for the previous company that I worked for, a lot of those principles, we were using them every day. It just helped you understand the background of how you plugged those in and made them work, I guess you would say.
100%. Yeah. You just got a little bit of a roadmap. So I'm curious now, what does wifey think about the business? And does it still make her on edge a little bit, or is she just smooth sailing now? How's that work?
No, she's very happy with it. She likes what we're doing. She can see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, that there is a success, a story there. She's heard all the horror stories of how many small businesses don't survive and don't this, that, or the other. But it's been going long enough now that she's a whole lot more at ease with what we're doing and can see that it is possible and that we are successful at it. So
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, I mean, at some point there was a turning, I'm sure, for her, whether she told you that or not, but there was a history that you had built with her. And I say this because I've said this on other shows, but it's usually in connection to like ourselves. Like I feel like I've made good decisions, or I've built a history with myself. I can look back, or even in the moment of, do I want to do this or that or whatnot? It's like, I look back on what I've done, the confidence that I have in myself. I'm betting on myself. And so in this case, you were just building that same history, but just with her, so that now today you ask her the question. And although it may not be like, if it was up to her today, would she leave everything that you have and go start something fresh? Probably not. But she's betting on you now, it sounds like.
Sure. Well, and even to the point of, you know, it's the comfort and the belief in what I'm doing. You know, hey dear, I'm going to buy a $150,000 piece of equipment. Right. Okay, if it'll work, right? And she's in for it. You know, we're in the past, she might have been, wait a second. Are you crazy? We're going to borrow how much to do, you know, that type of thing. But there's a whole lot more ease with that decision. And she's known me. We've known each other. We started dating in high school. She was a sophomore. I was a junior. So we've known each other longer than we've not known each other. So she knows my thought process, how I do things. I'm a very analytical,
well thought out.
I love Excel. I will run things to death doing different scenarios in Excel of equipment and how it will work out and things like that. So she knows that is my mindset. So she knows if I'm ready to pull the trigger, I've already beat it to death.
Well, that's good. I definitely want to hear about how that's helped you and potentially held you back. And so I think that's amazing, though, that you've given her that gift, really, the gift of, you can trust me, the gift of the history, the gift of, you know, even the fact that she can trust, the fact that you've just beat it to death already, that she can just already trust that you've done that, I think is an incredible gift that as entrepreneurs, especially men, you know, unto our wives, like, it's tough because we want to be able to provide the life or just the opportunity or the security, but some of those things don't exist in entrepreneurship. Like they're constantly moving. And although it might feel secure to her, you know, to you, there's this equipment and then there's this, and then the job doesn't go well. And then someone quit. And then there's always these moving pieces, which is fine. That's why we build systems. But the idea of something being secure is just so gone from my mind, you know? Okay. So I want to know, along the way here, you've given us some, especially this analytical perspective. Tell us how that or something else that you want to share is like a good decision that you've made, or maybe a good process that you have in making good decisions that's led you to be where you are now.
Well, so like I mentioned, my favorite thing to do with, just say for a piece of equipment, I'll plug it all into an Excel spreadsheet and I'll find exactly what it will return per hour, what the exact costs are of it, the maintenance, every little thing that goes with it. And I will boil it down to what is the break even? What is the minimum that has to happen with that a piece of equipment for it to pay for itself?
Yep.
And that generally is what it comes down to when I make the decision whether to buy a piece of equipment or not, is that number. When you break it down into numbers like that, it's usually a no-brainer. You go, oh, wow, I can run this 2 hours a week and it pays for itself. That means the rest of the week is making profit, above and beyond. And so that's my mindset generally on moving forward on acquiring assets or et cetera. So
so give us a specific scenario where you've done that or something similar to that, where it was like a game changer for you, where you made this move and looking back, you're like, oh, thank goodness I did it that time.
Sure. Well, and it's something that we bought recently. We bought a piece of equipment that, well, let me back up just a little bit. So in the business, as I told you, I have two different businesses. I have a construction business. We build steel buildings. Well, an offshoot of that was having difficulty getting contractors to do dirt work, to do the foundation work for my projects when I needed it. And so we bought a small piece of equipment so we could start doing it on our own. Well, and it was kind of in that mindset of when I was looking at it, it's like, okay, we need to, if we use this piece of equipment just to build the foundations that we're building, it actually pays for itself automatically. There's no consequence with this piece of equipment to buy
with the jobs that we already have lined up.
Yes. So we bought it, and then lo and behold, not only did I need that service, there are other people around me that needed the work done. And so it started growing and started use of it. And we had an offshoot, and now, like I said, I have an excavation company that we've completely separated, and it can work in conjunction with a construction company, or it can work completely separate. And so that has really increased our revenue flow, if you will. And it's also increased our diversity because, as I mentioned before, they can work together, the two companies, but they're absolutely not dependent on each other. And so I feel like we're setting ourselves up, depending on, everybody's worried about what's happening with the economy and are we due for this or a recession or et cetera. But with two completely separate veins of business, I feel like we've kind of set ourselves up to have a little bit of security no matter what happens with the market. One of them will continue to be busy and be able to provide what we need it to do. So
I love the angle. I'm going to boil it all the way down to, would you say that you're being analytical? Would you say that you're a fairly not risky guy, just to put it plainly? Or would you say that you're risky as long as it fits into the box?
As long as it fits in the box, I'm not afraid of doing it, but I like to see that the numbers are there.
Yeah, you're not going to sling back and forth without calculating it, but calculated risk. And so I love that. I'm the same exact way. I like to say that I'm extremely risky when it comes to calculated risk, which doesn't make it super risky, really. But I love what you did there. Boil it all the way down to that one decision of, I'm going to feed my business by taking control of the foundation work. And although it seems like a little bit of like, well, you could just, if you just stayed in your lane, you stay in your niche and you just, hire it out, then that's fine. That allows you to scale. But in this case, you were getting held up by it. So the one decision to just allow to like the hourglass pinch to be removed actually then provided the opportunity, which with equipment, that usually how it comes down is that you were the person willing to take the risk. Nobody else around you was. And so now you get the benefit of taking the risk. So for the listener, I just want you to pay attention to what Greg's saying to you. It's not about necessarily going and buying another piece of equipment and starting another business. It was number one, removing the hourglass pinch from his business. He had to first identify what that looked like. He crunched the numbers. It made sense. Even if there was no excavation company, it made sense to remove the hourglass pinch so his other business can flourish. But then, like with any other risk, with any other calculated risk, as we'll say, there's always going to be additional benefit that maybe sometimes you don't recognize up front, but you can pay attention to as you continue to open yourself up to opportunity. Because that's really what risk is that you open yourself up to opportunity as long as you're taking a hold of. And you could have turned down those other jobs. You could have said, no, we're not going to be an excavation company. We're just going to keep this for us and be what it is. And that would have been fine. But now you have two companies that are probably going to be not just one, but like you said, potentially saving one or the other, or both thriving through the recession or whatever it is that they're calling this that we're going to go through.
Sure. Absolutely.
Let's flip the coin, Greg. What about a bad choice? What have you done that just oof?
In the construction business, this is actually a pretty easy one, and it's taking jobs that you shouldn't.
Yeah.
it sounds terrible, but I'm that kind of guy. You'll have a person call you, and if you remember, I talked about our area that we service.
Yep.
And I try to stay within that 50-mile range. Well, as with everywhere in the country, I'm sorry, finding labor, finding people to do jobs is difficult. And so we'll get people that will call us from outside of my traditional area that we work in. And you'll get it sounds bad, I'm not making fun of them, but you'll get a sad story. Man, I've called everybody I can find. Right. Nobody will show up. Nobody will do this.
Right.
And I will go, okay, I feel sorry for you. You're a nice guy. And you'll calculate and go, okay, yes, this, instead of being 50 miles, this is 100 miles from home. And we have to drag all of our equipment and all of our employees and our subcontractors and this, that, and the other. But we'll make it work. And it's only going to be a few days here and there. Undoubtedly, when you make that decision, the wheels fall off. It just, everything that can go wrong will, which is the reason you stay close to home, because when things happen, you have the assets and et cetera to overcome the problems. That's the whole thing with staying in your territory, is you have the ability to overcome obstacles, which in the construction business, that's the normal flow of business. But when you step outside of where you shouldn't be, the wheels just seem to fall off, and it never works out.
Yeah, I think that you're right on that. I think that obviously that can be, translated into, don't take on the client if you're a marketing guy, or don't work with the low end or the high end if you're the opposite. Like it doesn't matter what the scenario is if you're taking on something that you shouldn't, is the point. Yeah. And usually, have you found that in those moments, it's because I loved the example that you gave, I feel, lack of a better term, sorry for this person, like that my emotions got pulled into it. Is it that, or is it that plus opportunity around the money? Because I've seen both.
No, usually it's, we're busy enough but it's just that, well, let me back up. There are times that falls in there. You'll have a little slow time and the two of those work together, and you go, oh, well, this would be a good way to fill in when we're slow, and it would give us something busy to do. Yes. And I guess it does that because we put extra miles on everything, but the payoff for it is seldom what it should be.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, as a good steward of other people, right, and making sure that we're taking good care of the people that we've been entrusted, it's your duty to make sure that they're busy. It's your duty to make sure that they have work to feed their families and such. But I love what you're saying, not at the expense of, in real estate, real estate investors call it the buy box. Like it is the buy box. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't, there's no deal, and you just got to know what the box is. I think that applies, all the way across the board. So that's great. What do you have now in place? And I would be super curious to hear about what you think about whatever process that you're about to describe to me. I want to know the process that you have of making good choices now. But since we've talked about your wife and also kids and how they're being involved, I want to know what your process is. And then, are the kids involved now, or how are you pulling them into that? I'm curious.
Well, so I guess a lot of it is in the forefront of looking at ways we can grow. I don't get them involved in like I mentioned, my thing is crunching numbers, the Excel spreadsheets of doing that thing. I don't get them that involved in the minutia of it, but I will bring them in and we'll talk about, hey, this piece of equipment, it could do this, it could enable us to do this. What are your thoughts on it? And usually it's from a very high level, just to keep their interest in it and to let them know I'm interested in them being involved. And that way, at some point, when they are more and more involved, they remember those conversations that happened. Oh, yes, we talked about this, and this is how we got to that decision. So that's generally my mindset for keeping the kids involved is involving them on a very high level, I guess you'd say, not on the minutia, but just keeping them involved. That way they, at some point when they're ready to step in, they have an understanding for what's going on.
So what does that decision-making process normally look like for you, whether they're involved high level or not? What does that look like for you? You're going to go to the data every time, or is it data?
I do. I'm just a numbers driven guy.
Okay.
Are
there decisions that don't have data?
No. No, not really.
I'm open to that answer.
Yeah, I do. I crunch numbers, from anything from, well, I say that, I have social media things involved for both businesses that we run, from Instagram showing pictures of things to the Facebook pages to et cetera. And seeing an actual, it's hard to find an actual number that is returning. And so that's, to use one of those $1 million words, it's very nebulous.
Yeah.
we'll
Right.
use that term, but that's one of those things. But I think in the end, the payoff is there for staying out there on those things. And there are times when you'll have a customer reach out to you and say, oh my gosh, I saw all the pictures of the things you do on Facebook. I found your page by accident.
Right.
You've got to come build this for us. We want you to do this. So I know the return is there, but quantifying exactly how much and what it exactly is tough to
100%.
quantify. So you know it's there, and you just keep doing it because you know it's the wise thing to do.
Yeah, 100. I agree with you. I think that you could look back into marketing if we're going to stay on this vein for a second. You could look back into newspaper or billboards, and like, how do you know that the billboard paid for itself? You don't. I mean, unless you have some sort of a code or phone number or something.
Yes,
but that's not going to work for barn dominiums. And so, yeah, it's about being known. And it's really cool because what you mentioned about, just being out there and people finding you randomly. I actually have a client, an excavator, that's one of his businesses in my mastermind group. And he posted a video of a brand new machine. And because of the machine, there was this huge investor in town, saw the video and realized, well, it was like this epiphany of like, wow, they're bigger than I thought they were. Let me make a phone call. And because of that video with this one machine, it gave the perception that they were so much bigger, or bigger than the investor thought that they were, which they are,
sure.
And opened them up to like all these neighborhoods of foundation work. And it's just like,
sure.
One video had nothing to do with the actual dirt work, had the machine inside, doing the work. So
sure.
I think that you're spot on with paying for that and making sure that you keep it alive, my friend.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Greg, I'm ready for the speed round. Are you?
Okay, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
First question is this. Since you're a metric guy, you're a numbers guy, I'm super curious to hear your answer on this. The question is this. If you can only pick one metric, boil the whole business, both of your businesses, all the way down to one trackable metric, what is it?
Profit.
Okay, why?
Because if you're not making money, you're not going to be here tomorrow to do it again.
That's right. Okay. How are you? This is totally ancillary. I'm off the cuff here. How are you instilling that in your children inside the business?
So we do talk about the jobs that we're finishing up is like, hey, this is what happened on this. I don't give specific, dollars and figures on dollars and cents on every job, but hey,
sure.
This is what we ran into on this. This ran over here. These are things we've got to take into account on future jobs. And I do relate that to them. So they kind of have an idea for things to plan for, unknowns, things that that are out there, not necessarily unknown, but that are possibilities, and how to work around those. So yes, I do bring those into the conversations with them.
That's awesome. Love it. Okay. What book would you recommend for a 6-figure business owner trying to get to your level?
Well, so actually I've got two that I like. One of them is Profit First. I don't know if you've run across that one. Mike Michalowicz, I believe is how you pronounce his name, but that is, so many entrepreneurs get into the game, and I get it. You put every single dollar back into the business. And we mentioned there's also usually a spouse that's involved, and they see that you're gone all the time, but they're not seeing any of the payoff for this. And either you get completely burned out and you put every penny back into the business and you're just burned out, and you don't see the reward for it. So that system of not squirreling away the profit, but putting it away, that way it is now you can always put it back into the business, but it is a conscious decision to put that money back to the business. But there is a trail, and you go, oh, we did achieve this. We earned this much. And I think that is vital for people that are growing their business to have something to show for it,
Yeah. You're 100% right. I love it. What was the second book?
The second book, and here in Texas, that it's called Customers for Life. I don't know if you've run across this one.
No, I haven't.
So Carl Sewell is a car dealer, an auto dealer, I guess predominantly in Texas. He has a number of car dealerships in the Dallas area, the Houston area. He is a huge auto dealer, but this book, Customers for Life, and it talks about their theory of things that they do, little things that they do for customers that make them customers for life. And so, and people go, well, I'm not a salesman, but he talks about how every member of his team works on that from, taking care of somebody left their dry cleaning in the back of a car that they were working on that got messed up, and they took it and took care of it, and just on and on and on. But it's the little things that they do that make the customer go, hey, that is the only place that I'm doing business. And so it's just a great, it's not a long read by any means, but it's just a great little tool for people to realize, oh, I really do have an influence on how many of these customers continue to use our business.
I love it. Yeah, we call them touch points, and there's so many of them, and most entrepreneurs have never really thought about the touch points that we have before they become a customer, and then as well as all the opportunities after that we have, the little touch points. And not that we need to make every touch point special, but to your point, if there is intentionality at each point, the right people will not only become customers, but they'll be customers for life, the raving fans, if you will. So love that. Okay. Do you intentionally network or mastermind with other entrepreneurs?
So there's a group of guys here in this local area that are of similar age, similar mindset in business that I don't know that we necessarily, there's a specific, oh, we're going to get together and talk about business or et cetera. Sure. But we regularly get together and visit and talk about how things are going, what projects they've got going on. And again, just you keep yourself in front of them. Exactly. But the payoff is when they come across something that somebody's doing, they go, oh, you need to talk to him, or I do the same thing. Hey, this guy can take care of something you're needing. And so it works very well from that networking standpoint of them taking care of your referrals, them taking care of referring you to other people. So it works very well.
Love it. It's an old school tactic of building the network that way, but I love the local meetups. They are a heartbeat, really, that I think will last forever. But it's just an opportunity for people who want to take advantage of relationships.
Yes,
I think it's so important.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got a question for you that wasn't on the sheet, so I'm gonna throw you a curveball here since we got a little extra time. And You're an analytical guy, so I love watching you think. So, if you only had 1 hour each week to operate your business, what would you do in that 1 hour to successfully operate the business like you do now?
It'd be focused on scheduling.
Okay, give us a little bit more.
Because, well, the reason I say that is that's the biggest thing is we have so many jobs that come your way, and keeping the scheduling in line. A lot of times it sounds bad, but it gets put by the wayside and you're putting out fires, you're working on this, that, and other, where if you actually just kept a schedule and kept things lined out from that standpoint, a lot of the fires could probably be avoided. And so I think that's probably the wisest investment that could be made, is actually taking care of the schedule and making sure everything stays in line and moving along.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes me think, I the principle that you're describing here, I just want to pull a little nugget out here for the listener, because it's not necessarily about analysis paralysis. Because if you get too in the weeds, then you never have any action.
Exactly.
But I was in sales for almost 20 years before I launched my first business. And it was very much the same way in the sales process, which I eventually ended up teaching. But if you could take care of a lot of the things by just building a good relationship, being authentic, actually figuring out what they need, and then if you can help them, then presenting those things, then there are no objections really at the end.
Exactly.
And it's the same exact thing that you just said, which is, it's a different thing with scheduling, but if you can get ahead and be organized and actually be where you say you're going to be, do the things that you say you're going to do to the people that you say you're going to do them to, then it actually eliminates a lot of the problems on the back end of business, the operations.
Sure. And then with that, like I said, the communication portion of letting those people know where you're going, what you're doing, that
it saves everything.
People can adjust to most anything if they know what's going, if they have a accurate understanding of what's going on and what your intentions are.
The intentionality it goes just Like me as the homeowner, I just got done building a house for 16 months. In fact, I should probably continue the time frame because we're still like I was texting him today going, bro, when is this XYZ getting done? And it's because I have no expectation. I have no timeline. Like, hello,
Yes. Sure.
I'm a pretty flexible guy. I run multiple businesses like yourself. So it's like, I get it. I'm not trying to be a hard-nosed guy. I'm not trying to be difficult.
Sure.
But if I don't know,
But
now
just give
I'm
me a
wondering.
realistic expectation. Yes.
If you
That's all
just
it
communicate
requires.
with me. So I think
Yeah.
that you hit the nose dead on the head there on the head. So last question, Greg, if you lost it all, what would you do?
You know, in my industry and with it's the thing of, I think I've listened to other podcasts and everybody goes back to it. It's what you've already learned. If you lose all of it, you don't lose that portion of it. And so starting over is so much less daunting.
Right.
You can rent in my business, you can rent equipment, you can pieces that you need to work. And I think that's where I would start off. You just go out and start talking to people and rent equipment and build a business again. You know how to do it. You've done it once. Get out there and make it happen again.
Yep.
You've gotten over the hard part of figuring it out. Just do it again.
Now, the secondary question, since you're for the listener, I pop on with Greg here a little bit ago before we jumped on the air, and he said that he had listened to several of the shows ahead of time. So he's got a little bit of this, like, he knows what I'm going to ask ahead of time. So my secondary question to you, my good friend, is how do you instill that freedom that you just described of, well, I know it's less, I just do it again. Like, there's total freedom in that.
Sure.
How do you gift that to your children?
So let me give you a little, my two boys, the youngest ones, they're kind of little entrepreneurs as well. They have their own little, in high school and in school, they had their own little lawn mowing business that they started up. They funded, they've bought their own equipment. As I mentioned, one of them is a hands-on, do everything kind of guy. The other one is the salesman, and they work together pretty well. And so they have that mindset of, one of them came to me one day, the younger one was like, hey, Dad, if I go buy this piece of equipment, it'll open us up to where we can add this to our list of services that we're doing when it's not lawn mowing season, and we can do this for the same customers and offer another thing that takes over. So they're seeing that in ways that how they can grow a business, things that they can add in services that customers need. And so I think that is the best way to pass it on to them, is let them have their own little business. Let them understand how money works. They've bought their own vehicles. They've just from that little enterprise that they have, they've kind of understand how business works. And that puts them so far ahead of so many kids nowadays that have no concept of where money comes from or how to go out and earn it, And so I think that for kids is invaluable of running their own little business, whatever it may be.
I love it. We are cut from the same cloth, and our mind and how we parent. Like I said, you've got a few years on me ahead of time, so I'm gonna be watching you, in detail on how this plays out with your boys and stuff. But I have so appreciated just the time with you here today. I think that not only the listener got things in business, but I think the things in life that make us a good person, a good decision maker. You're an excellent example of all of that. And so I want to know first, before we sign off here, how can the listener connect with you? How can they find you? How can they do a deal with you? How can they come work for you? Whatever, I don't know.
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn at just Greg Caldwell, and my construction business is listed there as well. But then on social media, Facebook, Caldwell Construction and Caldwell Earthworks are the two businesses here in the Nacogdoches, Texas area. So reach out to me on any of those. You can see plenty of pictures and see what some of those viewers and listeners that may not understand exactly what a barn dominium is, they can go there and see the pictures and find out what that is. If nothing else, it's a learning experience. So
100%. Now, with the barn dominium talk, you got to make sure. Are you on TikTok?
No, I've not been on TikTok. I've not ventured there yet. But
get your social media folks on TikTok, because it feels like every 7th video that pops up is a barn dominium of sorts. So really, I will have to dive into that. So there you go. Well, brother, you have been extremely valuable here today. Thank you for opening up just your history, your experience, your value. We wish you nothing but success. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.